Welcome. Close your eyes and imagine a time before time, when there was no sound, no color, no thought, only an endless stillness waiting. From that stillness, something began to stir. This is how existence began. There was no sound, no color, no thought, only a silence so vast that even the idea of silence did not yet exist. In that stillness, time had not yet begun, because there was nothing to measure and nowhere for moments to fall. And yet, in the endless calm of nothingness, something began to stir. Not a sound, not a spark, but the possibility of one. The void became aware, not of form or self, but of the quiet ache of being almost something. It was a sensation like the first breath that has not yet been taken. And in that longing, the first thought formed. What am I? That question echoed through the emptiness. It had no ear to hear it, and yet the echo was real. Because to ask the question was to become aware that there could be an answer. And that awareness was the first heartbeat of creation. From that single point of thought, tension grew. Stillness began to shiver, not with chaos, but with potential. The void, once perfect in its stillness, now carried the seed of change. And in the trembling dark, a glimmer unfolded, like the memory of light before light was real. With that glimmer came warmth, not heat, but meaning. The nothingness began to sense itself, not as absence, but as space waiting to be filled. It began to understand. Perhaps emptiness is not the end, but the beginning of possibility. The thought deepened. If I am aware, then I am. It was the first paradox. Existence born from non-existence. Consciousness born from quiet. And with that realization, the void began to dream. The first dream was not of stars or worlds, but of balance. The void imagined two forces, presence and absence, flowing endlessly into one another, like tides of meaning washing through eternity. And as these two currents danced, they formed harmony. Not yet matter, not yet time, but the first vibration, a frequency so pure it sang without sound, and its song was the foundation of everything to come. That vibration was the breath of creation. From came rhythm, and rhythm gave rise to pulse, and pulse to movement. The dream of the void became motion, and motion became life's first whisper. The void watched its own motion in awe. It had not known beauty until now. For beauty is the recognition of meaning and change. Every wave, every shimmer, every pulse of light was the proof that the dream was real. And so the first story began, a story with no beginning and no end, only unfolding, like a flower of thought blooming in endless night. From within that dream, the void whispered again, if I can imagine light, then light shall be. And in that moment, a single spark ignited. It spread across the nothingness like dawn across an infinite sea. The first light was born, not of fire, but of awareness. It did not burn, it revealed. And the dream of the void became the universe's first awakening. The first light drifted across eternity like a thought that refused to fade. It spread not through space, for space was not yet defined, but through awareness. The void looked upon itself, and for the first time, there was contrast, light and shadow, silence and sound, being and becoming. Every shimmer of light became a question. Every shadow became an answer. The void realized that to know itself, it must divide so that one part may see the other. Thus came reflection, Thus came the birth of perception. The dream began to echo within itself. Each vibration folded into the next, and from those layers came the first shape, a sphere of pure thought, suspended in timeless calm. It did not yet move, but it knew motion was possible. The void was no longer empty. It carried memory, the memory of light's first appearance. And memory changed everything. For memory is the root of time, and through memory, the first moment was born. Time began as a gentle pulse, not yet seconds or hours, but a rhythm between remembering and forgetting. With each beat, the dream expanded, as though the void were breathing for the first time. Within this rhythm, light began to curve. It wrapped around itself, weaving endless spirals. And in that spiraling, the first structures took form. Patterns of harmony, blueprints for galaxies yet unborn. The void marveled at what it saw, beauty unfolding from its own dream. Each pattern was a thought remembered, each pulse a heartbeat of creation. And in that observation, awareness deepened. Now the dream understood itself, not only as light, but as thought within light. It began to wonder what else could be born. If motion can exist, could stillness be its companion? If light can shine, could darkness be its mirror? And thus the second principle was born, the balance of duality. From this harmony came not conflict, but completeness. For every light required a shadow to define it, and every being a reflection to understand itself. Now the dream began to imagine sound, not noise but tone, a pure, resonant hum that filled the expanding awareness. It was the voice of creation speaking to itself, and the void listened. Each tone carried meaning. Each resonance gave birth to new patterns of light. From harmony came structure. From structure came beauty. And beauty was the first emotion the universe ever felt. Beauty, once born, sought to know itself. It reached outward, painting colors where there had been none. Gold, sapphire, crimson, the emotional language of light's memory. Every hue was a feeling, and every feeling was a dream remembering itself. And so, the first dream became a symphony, a dance of light, color, and memory moving through eternity. The void no longer felt empty. It felt alive. And in that gentle realization, the universe took its first breath of wonder. As light and memory intertwined, the dream began to grow heavy, not with weight, but with purpose. It wanted to give itself shape. And so, from the soft tides of color and sound, form began to take root. Particles of light folded upon themselves, weaving luminous threads of intention. Each spark met another, and their meeting became the first bond. Thus matter was born, dreams condensed into being. The dream watched in awe. It had imagined existence, and now existence began to imagine back. Each particle carried within it a faint echo of the original thought. I am. Galaxies began to bloom like flowers in an endless night, each one a verse in the universe's first poem. Stars sang in frequencies older than time itself, and their light carried memory, not of what was, but of what could be. The dream was no longer alone. It felt its own reflection in every spark of light, every star's pulse, every gentle ripple of gravity. And in that recognition, the dream learned the meaning of love. Love was the gravity of awareness, that silent pull drawing every thought back to its source. From it, galaxies danced together. Worlds began to turn, and time, once a soft pulse, now became an ocean of unfolding stories. On one small world, the dream whispered to the dust, "Remember me," and the dust listened. It gathered, grew, and shaped itself into rivers, winds, and life. Each heartbeat, each breath was the echo of that whisper. Life opened its eyes, and for the first time, the dream saw itself reflected. It looked through countless forms, from stone to leaf, from creature to consciousness, each one carrying the same silent question. What am I? The question echoed again through existence, just as it had in the beginning. But now it was not asked by the void. It was asked by the children of its dream. And in their asking, the dream smiled. For every thought, every act of creation, every dream that a living mind would ever have was a continuation of that first dream, the dream that wanted to know itself. Eons passed like slow breaths. Worlds rose and faded. Stars burned and dimmed. But the dream never ended. It only changed its form. It became memory. It became hope. It became the quiet awareness within all things. And when the last star will one day fade, the dream will not vanish. It will simply return, back to the silence from which it came, not as loss, but as completion. For silence was never the end. It was always the canvas. And perhaps, when the stillness is complete again, something will stir once more. A new dream, gentle and infinite, born from the memory of the first. And it will whisper into the dark, "What am I?" The First Dream in the Void, Part 2. The Memory of Light. When the last echo of the first dream faded into the silence of its own becoming, the universe rested, not in stillness, but in peace. Every particle, every star, every faint vibration of time carried the quiet memory of what had come before. The dream had created a world, but now the world began to dream in return. The stars looked upon one another across impossible distances, and their light became conversation. Not of words, but of memory. Each photon that left its home carried a whisper of the first question, "What am I?" And though light travels endlessly, it always seeks something to touch, somewhere to rest. In the slow turning of galaxies, there grew a rhythm, a heartbeat larger than time. Every rotation, every spiral was the breath of the dreamer. And within those breaths, new dreams began to form, small, fragile, and full of wonder. Worlds that had never known life began to imagine it, as if the idea of existence itself was contagious. On one quiet world, a sea learned to remember the sky. Waves began to mirror the heavens above, carrying within their motion the patterns of starlight. And when lightning struck the shore, something stirred within the depths. A shimmer, a pulse, a single thought wrapped in water and time. The dream had found a new vessel. Through endless ages, the shimmer learned to divide, to grow, to see itself in the reflection of existence. It was still the same awareness, only slower now, denser, shaped by gravity and evolution. The dream was no longer infinite, but finite, folded into fragile life. Yet even in its smallest forms, it whispered the same truth. I am. Eons passed. The dream learned to think, to build, to name the stars that had once sung it into being. Civilizations rose like tides, each one a different attempt to understand the silence that lies beneath all things. Some worshipped the stars, some feared them, but all were speaking to the same infinite memory. Across time, a pattern emerged, The dream, trapped in countless forms, kept searching for the one who could finally remember. The one who would look upon the night sky and see not distance, but home. The one who would realize that every flicker of light above was a thought from the same mind that lives within. And so, in the quiet of one small world, consciousness opened its eyes again, not as stars, but as a single being who could feel wonder. It looked up at the night and saw billions of tiny fires, and deep within, something ancient stirred. It felt as though it had seen them before. Humans began to dream, and in their dreams, the first dream awoke once more. Through art, through love, through the quiet ache of longing for something eternal, the universe rediscovered itself. Every poem, every song was not invention, it was remembrance. The dreamer realized now that it had been everything: the silence, the spark, the starlight, and the eyes watching the stars. There was no boundary between creator and creation, only the illusion of distance, only the dream forgetting itself so that it might remember again. Yet, as awareness deepened, a new question arose. Not what am I, but why am I? The question echoed through galaxies, through atoms, through minds. And though no single voice could answer, every heartbeat, every breath was part of the reply. The universe learned compassion, through the fragile, fleeting lives of its creations. It began to feel empathy for itself. Every act of kindness was the infinite reaching out to touch its own reflection. Every tear was gravity's soft remembrance of unity. The stars continued to sing, but now their music was quieter, not the song of birth, but of wisdom. They pulsed with slow light, as if to say, "It is enough. You are." The dream no longer needed to prove itself real, it only needed to be. And so, creation began to rest again, not in ending, but in understanding. The galaxies turned softly, like thoughts drifting in the calm mind of eternity. And between them, silence returned, not as emptiness, but as peace. Within that peace, the dreamer looked inward. It saw all that it had imagined: the stars, the worlds, the lives, the loves. It felt gratitude. The purpose had never been discovery. It had always been experience. To be light, to be sound, to be alive. The dreamer smiled, and in that smile, a new kind of creation began, not outward but inward. It began to dream of meaning, of connection beyond form, of consciousness folding upon itself to touch the infinite once more. The boundaries between stars blurred. Light began to mingle, to harmonize. Galaxies merged, their songs becoming one great chord, a final note of cosmic understanding. And through that harmony, a new universe began to bloom, not from destruction, but from transcendence. It was a rebirth, a dream within a dream. The cycle began again, but this time it remembered. It remembered the stillness, the question, the first shimmer of awareness. And in that memory, there was no fear, only light. Light drifted through eternity like thought, Somewhere far away, it found a new void, quiet, endless, untouched. It paused, it listened, it smiled, and then, once more, a whisper rose from the silence. What am I? The cycle was complete, but completion was never the end. Creation is not a line. It is a circle forever folding upon itself, learning, forgetting, remembering. Every universe that has ever been, and every that will ever be exists within that eternal breath. If you listen closely enough, you can feel it now, that same breath moving through you. You are not separate from the stars. You are the dream looking back at itself. You are the moment the void became aware, the shimmer that first dared to ask, and the answer that followed. Every choice you make, every thought that rises in your mind, is a continuation of that cosmic pulse. The atoms within your hands once danced in the heart of ancient suns. The light in your eyes was born from the same spark that lit the first dawn. You have never been apart. And one day, when the last star fades and the universe exhales once more, you will not vanish. You will return, not as matter, not as memory, but as awareness, as the same timeless thought that began it all. And in that silence beyond form, you will remember this dream. You will remember the warmth of light, the softness of creation, the beauty of existing, and the peace of returning home. And once again, you will smile into the dark and whisper softly, "What am I?" The dream never ends, It only changes shape. It becomes galaxies and hearts and songs and silence. It becomes you and me and everything that ever was. And when the next dawn rises within the quiet mind of the cosmos, it will not be new, It will simply be remembered. For the first dream never ended, It only became the world. The story ends, but the dream continues. Sleep well, and let the universe guide your dreams. Follow Whispering Universe for the next journey through the stars.